Hi everyone and welcome to this lecture. We're going to be looking at all the different elements that you need to familiarise yourself with in order to teach pronunciation and teach vocabulary. So there's a lot of lingo, so I recommend that you download the PDF containing all the jargon related to phonetics, phonology, and vocabulary building. So to start off, we're going to go through a few key definitions. So what is phonetics and what is phonology? Now these two terms can be quite confusing. Phonetics is a branch of linguistics that deals with the sounds of speech and their production, but also their representation by written symbols, hence the IPA, as well as the combination and description. Phonology is a branch of linguistics which covers the study of speech sounds with regards to the way they're distributed and their patterning. In other words, sound structuring, which enables a speaker to signal meaning by sound. As an English teacher, you won't be expected to be able to transcribe all words in IPA, but at least start using it, referring to it. It's quite common for teachers and learners to transcribe words using Roman alphabet, influenced by one's mother tongue. So a word like patience, this would be the phonetic transcription here, patience. So you have the diphthong, the guiding vowel sound here, and then you have the short vowel sound here, patience. So let's say a Spanish learner of English transcribes this in their own phonetic transcription, so their own interpretation. So they're going to use the alphabet, but they're also going to be influenced by Spanish. So they're going to try and make it phonetic. Patience. This could be an example. Another word is comfortable. So comfortable, this is the phonetic transcription, so using the IPA. And this is an example of how a student may be tempted to transcribe the word just using a Roman alphabet. So it's not about transcription, it's not about knowing how to transcribe words perfectly using the IPA. It's more becoming aware of what constitutes the sounds of speech. So what sounds do we produce in received pronunciation? Now, why is this relevant when we want to teach vocabulary? Well, one of the reasons why vocabulary is difficult for learners is pronunciation, the fact that words are not spelt the way they're pronounced. You'll have words such as thought, thorough, tough, throughout, and they might seem the same in writing or similar, but when you pronounce them, as you can see, they're not that easy. People will struggle to guess the pronunciation if they've never heard or seen that word before. So we're going to familiarise ourselves with these elements in theory. We're going to understand these different branches of linguistics, and we're just going to dilute these elements so that we can use them in the classroom. So here are some essential points to consider when teaching pronunciation. Received pronunciation. In the classroom or in the context of an EFL exam, students and teachers can use the UK English pronunciation or the US English pronunciation. It's simply important to highlight which of those two, for example, there are others of course, which of those two you are representing, and highlight which of those two the student is actually using, because some students or most students use a combination of both. They'll say things like tomatoes and then they say vitamins, or schedule versus schedule, or thorough versus thorough. So it's just letting them know which is what, because they will ask you, now this is why it's related to spelling, they will ask you why you spell flavour one way or another, or why there's a Z sometimes in organisation, why there is an S in other texts. So it's helping them become aware so that they can choose and also be able to produce a coherent piece of writing where they go for one spelling or the other. Now there are many features in speech. We're going to cover lots of different terms such as pitch, intonation, diction, enunciation, length and loudness of syllables, pace and also speed. You're going to be helping students a lot with pronunciation, so getting them to slow down and enunciate and become aware of the native stress pattern will be part of your day-to-day. Now the ultimate question, why? Why is teaching pronunciation so important? You'll sometimes hear students say, well, what's the point? I'm always going to have my foreign accent, so what's the point even working on pronunciation? Well, it's not just about accent reduction, it's more about being understood. So if you notice that students are reluctant to work hard on their pronunciation because they believe it's impossible to get rid of their foreign accent, just highlight the fact that it's sometimes compromising meaning, their approximative pronunciation. So it can become a bigger problem. It's not just about getting rid of a foreign accent, it's about being understood. So this is something that you need to address in the classroom. Clarity and accuracy can be achieved. You can keep your foreign accent, but speaking clearly and with accuracy is achievable. And this will enable the student to maintain a certain rhythm, a certain flow when speaking. So when teaching or correcting pronunciation, make sure that you target these different areas for improvement. So when correcting vowel sounds, do show your students the phonemic chart. It's not something they need to master, but it's just for them to visualize the different types of vowel sounds, the different vowel phonemes that exist. There are short, long, and gliding vowels. So there are 20 different combinations of vowel sounds, which can sometimes be difficult for learners because they don't necessarily have as many combinations or the same combinations in their own mother tongue. Consonant sounds. Now there are 24 consonant sounds, so 24 phonemes. Some are nasal, others are lateral. So the positioning of the tongue, the lips, the teeth, all these things can be mimicked. So you can use another picture which you can download with this lecture, where we have the different shapes, the different exaggerated ways of pronouncing different sounds. So you can point at the mouth, you can then mimic together. It will make the exercise more fun. You just need to remember that there are certain sounds that are more confusing than others, depending on the mother tongue of the learners. And bit by bit, once you've worked on phonetics, which are these different sounds, you'll move towards phonology, which is incorporating these sounds in a sentence, so in words and in a sentence, and giving that sentence a natural, native flow. So you will do it in an exaggerated manner initially, because people need to shift from their mother tongue to English, which means that stressing the beginning of the word in English might be more of a struggle for a Spanish speaker because they tend to stress the last or penultimate syllable. So we're talking now about word stress, but also intonation and sentence stress. As you progress throughout this section, you'll notice that the lectures cover details. So we start off with the science of phonetics and we move towards examples in speech, so common mistakes made by learners, and finally different ways of actually incorporating all these elements when teaching vocabulary. So now do take a look at the pronunciation and vocabulary glossary, so the PDF which you can download, which comes with this lecture. You'll see that there are 5 keywords, so phonetics, phonology, linguistics, pronunciation and lexics. So start with those and then have a look at some of the key words which are related to vocabulary, so teaching of vocabulary and teaching of pronunciation.